The lovely Debbie Boone joins us here. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about this a zillion times, what the song You Light Up My Life meant to you and your career, and kind of where it stands in your heart today.
Well, when I first heard it, I knew it was a good song. I wasn't excited by it, but I just thought, if somebody wants me to go into a recording studio and sing Happy Birthday, I'll do it.
The lovely Debbie Boone, the song You Light Up My Life. It's one of those songs that, well, at least for some period of time, I think in virtually every human being, no matter what language they speak, that it was in their head for a period of time. To the point where everybody walked around with that You Light Up My Life on their mind, right? Which has to be a sensational tribute and distinction for anybody that's in the music business.
Well, for the most part, yes. And I am very, very grateful. But a few people did want to break that vinyl over my head.
Here's your record, Debbie. I'm using it as a Frisbee. What are you talking about?
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
On a very pleasant Wednesday morning here, as we originate from South Florida, on Jack Namer's fine organization, the Eye On Channel, Jeff Deforrest and Mike Lubitz, bringing you yet another edition of the Defo Show. Very happy to be with you. I'm Jeff Deforrest, of course, and that would make it a fairly easy deduction to figure out who the other guy is, and that would be one Mike Lubitz. So, Lubie, how are you on this fine day?
I am rolling along, sirs. We get to this hump day. We have a big show on tap, and I'm excited for what's to come. What's going on with you?
Well, everything's cool. I guess, You Light Up My Life. We were talking about that clip you heard from the Debbie Boone interview that we had. That was on our After Hours show on Believe Podcast Networks. And it was kind of fun talking to Debbie Boone because, as we were talking about, we alluded to this yesterday. Who knows? I mean, you're figuring maybe you're sitting on a massive stiff here, right? This could be a thing that goes in any number of directions, and she couldn't have been any more delightful. And obviously took a very lighthearted view of some of the things that we were discussing, including the just a massive intrusion on everybody's consciousness of the song "You Light Up My Life." I promise not to do that anymore. I really do. But there is a song that should be on everybody's mind today, and yet I'm not sure how significant all of these developments are, Mike Lubitz, in terms of altering the state of the human condition. We have a war going on with Russians invading Ukraine, and just horrific stuff happening there. And so I don't know how big this is in the overall scheme of things, but maybe you should join me, Lubie, and I ask everybody to just take part, as if I was Harry Carey himself, and singing at least a chorus of "Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the
Crowd."
Right. Buy me some peanuts to Cracker Jack. That was always good. Cracker Jack was a ripoff at ball games, wasn't it? Cracker Jack,
Yes.
The big box of Cracker Jack.
Yes.
I do remember when that was. I mean, well, you're old, Defo. That's why you remember that. I remember filling up my gas tank for $3. It held 10 gallons of gas, and it was $2.99 a copy. No, it was $29.9 a copy. 29 cents, 29.9 cents at the Gulf Station on Merrick Road in Merrick, Long Island. $29.9. I was filling up my Ford Galaxy with 10 gallons of gas for $2.99. Literally, it was unbelievable. That was great. Now, what is this other hybrid gas that is like radically and dramatically cheaper than even a gallon of regular? Have you noticed this thing? It's got some kind of EB60 or what is that?
I don't know.
Is that made from like juices that were extracted from plums? I mean, what is that?
I don't know.
No, that would be expensive too. Then probably more expensive than actual gasoline. But is that something you should put in your car? I'm really wondering about that. I mean, why is it being sold separately? What cars use that? If your car normally is running on regular gasoline, can you go ahead and save yourself? I think it was like 60 cents cheaper a gallon at this one gas station. I saw it featured prominently that it was like $2.89 for a gallon of this stuff. But what is that? I don't know. We asked Debbie Boone about her father, Pat Boone's venture into the automotive industry, where he literally, I thought it was a car that ran on like extract of wheat, which now is also going to be just astronomically increasing in terms of price there. Because where do we get our wheat from? Hey, Putin, you got any more wheat?
Oh God.
I guess the Ukraine also was a producer of massive amounts of wheat. So forget about it, man. If you're looking for a slice of whole wheat toast, you're not going to find it anywhere. It'll cost you more than a piece of a Bitcoin at this stage. But and wow, again with the cryptocurrency, Lubie, how did we miss this boat? My son, who's a CPA, just got an account with a guy 22 years old, and last year he made $600,000 on cryptocurrency.
I'm glad he got
22-year-old
out.
kid.
Glad he got out.
What? Oh, did he get out? Because yes,
glad he got out because the last 2 months it's been a total disaster in the cryptocurrency.
tank job. Ever since all these athletes have been embracing it, even UD is selling cryptocurrency.
Yes.
Right. The Heat's Arena is named what? FTX.
Arena.
And that's
Yes.
a cryptocurrency, and I guess there are different ones. You got Bitcoin was the one everybody was familiar with. There are a bunch of others. And now you're seeing everybody selling his stuff, right? LeBron and his kid, that commercial that they're in together is for some kind of cryptocurrency.
Yes.
What on earth? See, I don't understand these things, these kind of existential, monetary and financial endeavors where, you're really taking a shot on something that you just have no idea. You have no tangible thing to hang on to. It's not like you're buying a brick full of gold, right? Or of gold. Which was big, a few years ago? You don't hear anybody talking about that anymore, do you?
Gold's still
Buying gold?
solid, but yeah, it's not what it was. It's still at a good price.
We would be the last guys, I would think, to come to for any kind of financial advice. I mean, you'd be better off digging up the grave of Bernie Madoff saying, hey, Bernie, what do you got for me today? Oh, yeah, buy that? I'm going all in. Because, it's been a disaster. Anything that I ever invested in, my timing was always so far off. Getting into real estate, everybody's making scores. When do I decide to buy like 2 extra homes? 2008.
Oh no.
My financial records were flatlining from that point on. I don't know that I ever recovered from that, to tell you the truth. Although, you know what? 14 years is more than enough time to have gotten out of that mess. Stiffed a lot of banks, which, everybody did, so it wasn't too bad, overall. But nonetheless, we would be the last place to go when it comes to financial advice. And probably, who understands the inner workings, the idiosyncrasies of all of these baseball negotiations? Does anybody really know what the hell is really going on there? I don't understand it because the salaries in baseball are outrageous when you get into free agency and even trying to negotiate and navigate a contract extension with one of your own star players. I mean, think about that. Juan Soto, this is always startling when somebody says, you know what, $350 million is not enough. Now, is he saying that because it's really not enough, or he knows that by the standards by which he should be paid, and in proportion to whatever percentage it is that the players are supposed to get from the owner's profits and Major League Baseball's profits, that he's being just violently ripped off at that point?
That's the thing.
It's hard to fathom, isn't it?
Trying to talk to my parents about this yesterday, and my mom still sort of had
your mother's into the baseball negotiations.
She's into the idea of that they're striking and locking out, and she's playing the blame game. And she had the mentality of like I used to have when I 20 years ago, where people always blame the players. And I was like, I find that funny. It's actually not that the players are asking for more; the owner's asking for them to take less. It's never like that's the thing. It's of course the players would say $300 million is ludicrous money. I've talked to players; they're open about it. But if they take less, it's not like the money goes to streets and the poor. If they take less, it's just more money for the owners. Well, screw the owners. I'm like, when have you gone to a game to watch an owner? I'm like, Mom, when was the last time when LeBron James was with the Cavs fans went to watch Dan Gilbert? I'm like, the reality is it's not, of course it's ludicrous money, but again, I'd rather get the players have it than the owners. Like, who gives a shit? I'm like, if the players are making $100 million, the owner's making $3 billion. I'm like, that's really what it comes down to.
Hard to imagine, where all of this money is coming from, although we know that it's providing content, especially now with the world of streaming, which we're now involved in. Jack Namer, on top of this thing long ago, got started in this industry and has been pioneering this sort of thing for a long, long time. And look what's happened, right? You have 8 zillion streaming services. Every network, they're more inclined to put their best stuff on their Plus app
Yep.
than they are to actually have it in their mainstream programming at this stage. And Major League Baseball is negotiating with a lot of different entities about expanding their horizons in terms of providing content for various organizations and the media outlets, many of which obviously are fueled by the fact that there's so much time to fill now with all of these various streaming systems that are available, and everybody that's in the industry has one, right? I mean, if we are involved in streaming, imagine what Major League Baseball's monetary compensation is for providing endless hours of content. But I mean, they're dealing with a lot of things, and people always say the fan boycott never actually happens. Would you agree with that, Lubie? That is the most phantom thing. Anybody that alludes to, well, you know what? It's only a matter of time before the fans just start turning their back on the game.
I mean,
It never happens, right? And fans will get these advocate groups together and say, yeah, that's it. We don't want anybody going to any more games. They do it with every sport, right? Whenever there's any kind of labor strife and, there's any kind of impasse. So when it comes to labor negotiations on collective bargaining, hockey, I'm never going to another hockey game again, right? Yeah, people are filling arenas constantly, and hockey has never been more popular and actually has taken off as a television entity when it used to be just a dead issue there. Remember the glowing puck flying around, Lubie?
I was just gonna say, yeah.
They tried anything to make the game watchable. The fact is, I mean, hockey just doesn't translate as well to TV as a lot of sports do.
Nope.
Because you almost need to see the entire scope of action.
Yep.
As you're at a hockey game when you're in a crowd. And now it's great that it's a spectator sport and much more so than a television sport. But yet, even locally here, that didn't necessarily fuel fans' desires to fill up seats because the team wasn't winning. So, and there's always a charm, it's happened with the Marlins, right? There's always a love affair in the very beginning whenever a city gets an expansion team. It doesn't matter how bad they are, how awful they are. Fans come out, they set attendance records in that first year that last, long into the future. And I would imagine if you look back and you, started to study Marlins attendance, our own Miami Marlins, who have had their share of controversies and bad ownership and obviously are fairly bereft when it comes to the kind of financial wherewithal in terms of spending on players that other organizations have. You're thinking, okay, it's natural that their attendance would not necessarily be anything to get in a big buzz about. But I would think that their first year in existence, when they were playing at really like a horse shit stadium for baseball, which is now Hard Rock Stadium, but it was barely adequate for baseball. Would you agree with that, Mike Lubitz? It wasn't a baseball stadium. It was adequate. It was okay, but it was, I mean, the phony wall and everything, that just the configuration wasn't right. It was impossible to hit a home run to right field. It was not really ideal. The sight lines were way off in that. Remember that?
There's lots to see where as much as people talk crap about this park, there's not a bad seat in the house.
No.
There was like 30% of the seats were bad, if not more in that. Like there was a ton of seats that you're like, what's going on?
Well, what was weird was because I guess, and I'm not sure, Joe Robbie originally designed the stadium or had the stadium designed. I don't know if he personally took a pen out and a protractor and started designing it, but his concept was, he wanted it to be convertible into a soccer stadium. And I guess he had baseball in mind also as a possibility as a tenant in his football stadium. But the problem was if you had a box seat there and you were, say, behind first base, you had what would normally be considered just great seats.
A great seat, yeah.
They were configured so that you looked straight out over first base. You were not angled to see what was going on at home plate. And then if there was anybody walking in the aisles, which there always was, in, say, the 20 rows that were between you and home plate, you couldn't see anything.
Nothing.
You were blocked from the whole game. And then, I always was thinking that if there was a chiropractor that had any kind of entrepreneurial spirit, he would have taken out advertising on the seats there because you had to crane your neck the entire time. and it really wasn't conducive to having a great time at a ball game. This new stadium that they have obviously is pristine in that regard, but as Harvey Fialkoff, when he was on with us yesterday, and I think pretty much you would find universal agreement on this, except for the people maybe that live in the immediate neighborhood that are charging for parking there and screaming, "No blackie, no blackie," which is a Miami thing, for those of you around the country. And it was always famous at the Orange Bowl, where some guy would, in what was kind of a rundown neighborhood there. I don't know if it was run down, but it wasn't really the most glamorous and elite of neighborhoods. It's not like you were walking down Worth Avenue in Palm Beach
No,
when you were
no.
walking into the Orange Bowl there. But whatever happened to that thing? Remember the Orange Bowl Bar? Was that the name of that place?
I don't
The
know.
Orange Bowl Bar? Was it just called the Orange Bowl Bar? And it was a real dump, but everybody went there after the game because there was nothing else around there. But, the big thing was people were selling parking spaces on their front lawn, which these were not exactly exquisite, palatial dwellings. And so the front lawn was pretty crappy and it was pretty small, but they would park like 20 cars in there. And then the big thing was they would guarantee you no blocky. So that if you came to, leave after, say, the third quarter, you wouldn't have to wait until the Winnebago that was parked behind you finally decided to make his exit. And then you find out, oh, yeah, they'll be leaving soon. And you see the guy has like a barbecue grill going. And he's just, starting to cook up some steaks. Hey, buddy, you going to move? Yeah, I wonder how many people just plowed their way out of those situations there with the no blocky. But no, a location of the stadium there is the old Orange Bowl site. For those unfamiliar with the geography here and the landscape of Miami and its sporting facilities, and to tell you the truth, it's not an easy thing to get to at that hour of the day. Events that take place, and many of us are living north of where this stadium is. Events that take place in Dade County and the south part of southern Florida, very difficult to navigate your way to if they're happening around 7 o'clock at night, which is the typical starting time for most baseball games. But all that being said, I mean, you don't see a lot of enthusiasm for the game. I don't know where they're getting all of this money from. It has to be television revenue, merchandising, whatever, international marketing. Wherever it's coming from, it's enormous. The thing that is never entered into the equation when any of these negotiations take place is the escalation in the value of the franchises. That you have a limited number of franchises. You have 30 teams in Major League Baseball, 32 professional football teams. That's it,
Yep.
right? It's not like you have Domino's Pizza there with 8,000 locations.
Exactly.
Or yeah, so I mean, it's so limited that all of this money is divided in very, each person is getting a very large dose of it that owns a team, but the value of the franchise and the ability to generate this kind of revenue is just enormous. How it escalates over the years. I mean, look at the Marlins that were bought for what? I don't even know if it was much more than $100 million when the Lauria Sampson team bought the Marlins. They sold it for $1.4 billion. Like what? 14 years later, something like that.
A decade or so. Yep.
And I think Lauria borrowed the money. He was selling like Dayglow Jesus paintings underneath 595 there, underneath one of the highways. He was right next to the guy that sold the fried peanuts, and another guy that was selling honey. They were all lined up there, and that's how he generated the money to buy the team and cashed out at $1.4 billion because, well, this was great. And you would have to say, as we mentioned yesterday, one of the greatest sporting Ponzi schemes ever was David Sampson, now a commentator who is like a go-to guy for everybody because he'll trash anyone.
Yes.
And no one ever brings up, like, you know what? You were one of the most egregious and outrageous
scumbags ever.
Executives in baseball history. A real piece of crap in that capacity, and yet pulled off like a genius move, somehow swindled the city into going in on this ballpark, which I would imagine the city of Miami or Dade County, whoever funded this thing, will be swimming in a sea of red ink well into the year 3000 because they financed a stadium. And, by the time that rolls around, we'll already have had 2 other stadiums.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
without that, guess what? Remember, teams used to threaten to leave. Nobody gave a shit about the Marlins leaving town. That was the other thing that was interesting. In our city, which is not a baseball city, the Marlins were threatening to leave town, and everybody go, "Oh yeah, good man, San Antonio, enjoy yourselves there. Had a Riverwalk. I hear it's great. Say hello to Tim Duncan."
I never batted an eye.
That was, I mean, we have some outrageous stunts pulled by our owners here who really don't seem to understand public relations at all. Stephen Ross being number one in that category. But Jeffrey Loria wasn't far behind, was he? The
Oh,
former owner of the now Miami Marlins. He bought them when they were the Florida Marlins. And remember, he had that cracker judge from San Antonio that supposedly he was going to buy the team. And on the opening day, he's standing with this guy going, "You see this guy? This team ain't going to be here if you don't start showing up, guys. You better show up." You can't badger fans into enjoying your product, can you?
Oh, no.
Imagine a restaurant guy has a lousy restaurant. It's rat infested. Roaches are crawling on the table. The food sucks. Service is awful. He's got one waiter for 20 tables. Drinks are lousy. They're watered down. And he's standing outside the restaurant going, "You guys better come in here and eat my food," which is kind of what a lot of owners in sports end up doing, especially here in South Florida. I'm not sure if it's the same in other cities, but and it always cracked me up whenever sportscasters would start screaming at fans, "You don't go to the game, so you can't make a comment." I don't know. I mean, you could still observe what the hell's going on without going to the games. Some people just don't enjoy that sort of thing anymore. I took a brief ride yesterday to try and acquire a pair of sneakers, Louis, which I have still yet to do.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I went down to Dick's Sporting Goods here, and they had nothing. Now, I have big, flat Jewish feet, which is that a common characteristic of all Jewish people? So I need not even a double wide. I need like a quadruple wide. So Bob Lanier's sneakers were smaller than mine when it came to width. Bob Lanier, the great basketball player, who was originally a guy that everybody said, "What, really, Bob? Those are size 16s?" Which I don't know. Well, what do you think they're wearing today? I mean, there must be guys
20s.
with bigger feet than that, no?
Yeah, 20s.
I mean, now that everybody's 7 feet tall, your guards are coming in at 7 feet. But I tried to buy a pair of shoes, and they didn't have my size. They had nothing to fit me, zero, in the category I wanted, unless I juiced it up. I don't know. I'm not inclined to pay, an enormous amount of money for a pair of sneakers. Are you?
Oh, no. I mean,
Yeah, man, I don't know. Like $70 is about where I draw the line.
70, 80. Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to pay like $189 for a pair of shoes to walk in. I mean, you have to be kidding me with that. And the prices escalated dramatically as they happen to have, and maybe that's because people are all buying the cheaper shoes, huh?
Yes.
But the $70 shoes, they had like 3 sizes: size 8, 13. And they had one that was supposedly going to be my size, and I tried it on, and it just didn't work. It was, a little bit too tight. So I had to walk on that, which was unfortunate because now I'm going to have to walk again on those shoes that I'm taping up with the holes in them. And I did get a lot of feedback on that particular concept. Many people have done this, Lubie. I'm not the only one.
As adults?
I'm not the only one.
As adults.
As adults in the modern era where you could get a pair of shoes, they could be at my door by the end of the show.
Yes.
If I wanted to have this thing expedited, but we'll see. I walked away, very frustrated from that. But and just traveling around for like an hour and a half, it took me an hour and a half to do what should have taken about 20 minutes yesterday. And I had to drop off some money because there was a rollover in the dead pool. And I'm sitting on, I have no shot with Terry Bradshaw. You would agree with that? Terry Bradshaw seems to be thriving. But I didn't realize Ozzy Osbourne, who had gone on a health kick. This is the other name I have in the pool in this last draw, which is now on a 3-month rollover. Nobody's checked out that anybody has had in the last 3 months. So I would say it's a fairly reasonable amount of cash, enough to pay for that trip to Italy, Lubie.
There you go.
I don't want to root for Ozzy Osbourne to be in poor health, but, I'm reading horror stories. Is the man on his deathbed? See, that's bad when you're thinking it would be a good thing if a guy checked out.
I think that's really bad. We've talked about this.
But it's come to that now after pumping in. This thing is like $50 a month. Been doing it for about 2 years. So what do I have? $1,200 invested in this.
Oh,
so I need to make a score. So hey Ozzy, I hope you're well. But you know what? Today wouldn't be too soon for you to go.
Oh my God.
This is what gambling will do for you.
I'm aware.
This is a prop bet of major significance here. And and you're also watching the news, hoping nobody else of any significance, nobody else of any level of fame, even the most smallest modicum of fame, checks out. Because, I obviously am thinking Bradshaw is good to go, for many more years. I mean, that was just a bad draw right there. So we'll see. I don't know. Osborne had like Parkinson's. He's had health horrors, all of those drugs. Libby, what do you think?
He's had a lot of health issues, but then he had cleaned up his act. So I was like, I was hoping outside of you
He might be fine. Yeah.
go the distance, but I supposedly who do we have?
I didn't mind losing with like Lasorda, even though he checked out shortly after I had his name in the draw. And who could root for Betty White to die? I mean, it was an odd thing. It was like the Sports Illustrated jinx, where she was on one of the publications that is put out by the people that do People Magazine. And I literally, like the day before she died, I see the magazine. I rarely look at this stuff anymore. Do you? Where you have the magazines and the flyer type of stuff at the cash checkout for a grocery store.
Yeah.
And who could afford to, remember you used to just throw a magazine in there as a joke, like if you saw a headline, aliens invade New York, and you say, yeah, I'll get a copy of that, right? But now the groceries are so prohibitively expensive that who can even think about it? You don't even consider throwing in that pack of gum that's sitting there, do you? When you're at the checkout line. But I rarely glance at this stuff anymore because, I mean, we know it's all BS, but it did have a big picture of a smiling Betty White saying that she couldn't feel any better about making it to 100. And of course, she died like 2 days before. But I mean, you can't root for something like that. I can't root for Ozzy Osbourne. I want to erase that whole stream of consciousness. If you can, just delete that from the video of the show, Lubie. That I now find myself, because of financial considerations, rooting for a guy to die. That's not good. Sorry, people, but this is what happens when you gamble. All right, there's been an alteration in plans. The Vegas trip is off. The flights I mean, who wants to torture yourself to get out to Las Vegas? And then you're all verklempt. And then on top of that, I'm going with the Mustang, which already, creates a little bit of an edge on a lot of different fronts. Although she's pretty good about disappearing while I'm in the race book. She doesn't mind. She doesn't want to sit there and watch me bet horses, and she's really not interested in the races very much. Unfortunately, though, slot machines, the ratio of losses per time played versus betting on horse racing is significantly higher than it is if you just. I mean, at least with the horses, you can occasionally cash a ticket even on the worst of days and kind of get back into the mix. But with slot machines, a lot of times it's just straight out the door, is it not? I don't know. That's my experience. I bought 4 scratch-off tickets yesterday, and of course, cashed on none of them. That was $20 out the window because I just couldn't resist the temptation to gamble. I saw some lady buying them. Now they have the vending machines with the scratch-off cards.
Yes.
He's very lucky in that regard. Jersey Kyle. He'll buy like a $30 scratch-off card, and automatically the first number he scratches off, it says you won $500. Instant winner. You're like, what? How is that? I've never won anything on those. Have you? Never. Scratch-off cards?
Never. Every year we used to get at
somebody would give them for your Christmas.
Gifts.
Yeah, Gary Hester.
Gifts every year, and I was there for like 15 years. I never won once. Like you would think in 15 years you
get $1 back. Something.
Something. Never. I've never done go out with those ever. Never.
What's the protocol on that now? Let's say a guy gives you a scratch-off card as a gift, right? Just like a stocking stuffer, Christmas or whatever, a nice little gesture, puts it in with the card. Oh, okay, so now you hit for like $2 million.
You hit for $1 million.
You split that with the guy that gave you the ticket?
No, if you guys go in on the ticket, of course. If they just
but I mean, I give you a ticket, a scratch-off ticket. I say, here, Lubie, thanks a lot for all of your efforts here on the show.
Yeah.
And, just have a little fun here. Scratch this off. Now, you scratch it off right in front of me and you win $2 million.
If you win millions, I could see throwing something their way.
Something?
Why would you
You wouldn't split it with the guy at that point, Lubie? What kind of, cheap bastard are you?
No, I mean,
I'm giving Jack a share. I'm giving Amy a share.
Brad Shiller, fine, but like
Ed Garcia, Segreto gets some money.
Splitting
everybody.
It?
No,
split it. I can't see splitting it. I can see kicking them. I guess if you win 2 million, 100 grand. I mean, some ridiculous amount of money, but splitting it, no, it's your gift. If you lose, you don't pay them for buying it for you.
Man, I tell you what, man. No wonder you never reach for any checks. You're just, incorrigible when it comes to money. Now, being broke will do that to you. So
Tell
You
me
know,
good.
and I'm beginning to understand that, in the same proportions as you are. All right, many things happening on the program today. We're going to talk to Scoop Skolnick of Five Reasons Sports Network. Scoop, of course, longtime sports writer here for the many local newspapers. I think he made the trifecta working for the Miami Herald and also the South Florida Sun Sentinel and the Palm Beach Post. He might have even done a little stint at the Sun Tatler, which is no longer in existence.
But yes, he did the other three.
Yeah, I don't think he was involved in that, but he it does a dynamite job. I mean, he's zeroed in. I don't know anybody, with the exception of the great South Florida sports writer Ira Winderman, who has been covering the Heat since their inception, and without exception, I mean, every year he's been on that beat. I don't know anybody that knows more about the intricacies of Heat basketball or dives more deeply into it than Ethan Scoop Skolnick, who's going to join us. Miami Heat, very quietly, huh? People are talking about Philadelphia now, as well they should. Is it worth a plunge on Philadelphia to win the championship, or does Harden choke when the money is on the table there? And Embiid may be the same thing. I don't know. MVP season for Embiid seems to have really matured. He got rid of this onerous cloud that was hovering over the organization, which was the sulking Ben Simmons. Would you think that Doc Rivers was a coach that would force you into some kind of a funk? Lubie, is it possible? I don't know. Why was Ben Simmons so upset? It seemed like whenever he had like a bad ball game or made some horrendous decisions, like that pass that he dropped off when he could have dunked the basketball that cost Philadelphia a big spot in the playoffs, Doc Rivers seemed to, at least publicly say, "Hell, well, you know what? This kind of thing happens once in a while. These are great ball players." Seemed like he, had his back, so to speak. Would you agree with that, Doc Rivers?
Yeah. He was sort of weird with Ben Simmons. He actually sort of threw Simmons under the bus at the end of it all.
Well, I mean, after a while, don't you get tired of it, right? You just want to slap the guy and say, "Hey, snap out of it, Ben." Your shooting percentage sucks, but you can do a lot of other things that can help us win games. Do that. But we'll see. I don't know. I think 12-1 is the price that you get on the Philadelphia 76ers to win the NBA title right now.
They have a lot of talent. It's just, I don't know, man. The whole Harden thing at some point he usually flames out. He's in the playoffs. He gets hurt. Embiid too in the playoffs. I don't know. I hate being a homer guy, but the Heat are.
Who's great though in the East? I mean, who's great in the East?
It was like the Heat. Like the Heat
are
totally
they great?
forgotten.
I mean, are the Heat a great team in your opinion?
Really,
I'm having a tough time accepting that. I know they made some positive changes during the offseason and or attempting to get tougher. But and maybe they did. But they also were hoping that Tyler Hero would bounce back, which they started bringing him off the bench, and it turned out great. Sixth man of the year, quite possibly Tyler Hero this year with the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler, obviously a very steady influence, but doesn't strike me as a marquee number one star. Does he hit you that way, Jimmy Butler?
The problem is they have a lot of really good players. No one gets the attention on their team like Booker or Paul or Embiid or LeBron or Anthony Davis or Kevin Durant. The funny thing is they're really good. Like
yes,
these schmanky guys that were randoms have been very consistent, and this is 2 years in a row now. So it adds depth. Plus Oladipo, who hasn't played at all, isn't needed. So he's going to come back well rested as a bench guy and just thrown some minutes in the next week or so. Like, I don't know, man. The Heat are legit and
very solid and deep. That would be the thing.
They're really good. They have a lot of guys that can do a lot of things, and they feed out. Whereas these other teams like have some kind of an issue. All of them, the Heat don't have any, and that's the problem. Is that they're so seamless. That's why they get no attention. The Heat are in the Eastern Conference. You talk about the Nets, but they have questions. In the Sixers, they have like they can go like 10, 11 deep of guys that they can count on. Like I don't know, man. The Heat are a very interesting team. And the less attention they get, the better. And Hero has done a total 180 from last year. The dude's freaking a beast. And he's scoring inside and outside. Strus can match Robinson for three. So that's the problem.
You know, Hero looks a little bit like Devin Booker.
A lot of people are saying that. He's trying to become.
He looked that way his 1 year at Kentucky. Although the thing that really threw me with Tyler Hero was how he had. I believe if you look up his shooting percentage on 3-point
It
attempts
wasn't
while
great.
at Kentucky, it was in the mid 30s, which I think is horrendous with the
great.
college three. So that would have been a discouraging thing. I mean, he struck me the same way when I watched him play in the brief moments I saw him at Kentucky, and the same thing happened with Devin Booker, who was far from in the spotlight with that team because they did have 7 guys drafted in the first round off of that team, of which Booker was one. But what was he, like the 4th guy taken maybe off that Kentucky roster, even as the 13th pick in a draft? And yet I remember seeing Tyler Hero, and people were making a big commotion about Tyler Hero, but he wasn't like an elite college superstar
No.
player. And I'm watching a guy, and he did similar things athletically in terms of being able to generate his own shot and getting a good shot off under pressure, whereas a lot of guys can't. And canning them, but his shooting percentage from 3-point range, which is nothing, right? You go to the park right now, Lubie, I guarantee you'll hoist up your first 3-pointer, right? You're not going to go inside the stripe to take your first shot. And, while you haven't taken a shot in like 10 years, probably, it probably goes in. No, it's an easy shot.
Yeah, probably. The college three is not difficult.
College three is nothing, my friend. Nothing. I mean, that is that actually is just beyond a mid-range jumper, in my opinion. Now the Pro 3 from the top of the key and from the wings is a bit of a chuck. And we've seen many times where, the over-reliance on that can make for some very boring basketball. But the Heat, they mix it up pretty well. They really do. And Scoop made this point on the show the last time he was on, and it kind of struck me, which was that you can take, and Spoelstra does this now with confidence, anybody on their second unit and plug them in for somebody that was on their first unit, and they do the same things. They don't alter the game because they have like Strus or Caleb Martin.
That's the thing.
Or Gabe Vincent in a game. And I guess Vincent came to prominence, right, when the U.S. lost to, what was that, Nigeria. In one of those Olympic prelim games
Yes.
before the last Summer Games. And 3 of the guys, 2 of them were on the Heat, on the Nigerian team. But Vincent, he distinguished himself, and the guy's a legitimate player. So, I don't know that he would be starting for other teams or playing more minutes, but, these are the kind of things that Scoop Skolnick is brilliant at dissecting. I don't know anybody that can delve into and dive into and carve up Heat minutia any better than Ethan Scoop Skolnick. And it's not like he's neglectful of the rest of the teams in the NBA.
That's what he's great at.
The Eastern Conference has supposedly swung the balance now after being kind of an afterthought. I mean, they were an also-ran to the West for the last several years in terms of people, thinking, "Wow, these are super teams." The Bucks win it last year. Are they not still a factor? I mean, you've got a pretty good big 3 there. Middleton is better than I thought he was a couple of years ago. The Greek is the Greek. I mean, he literally is a Greek god when it comes to basketball, even better than he's been in previous years this year. And Drew Holiday was a nice little compliment. A lot of people have picked apart the Pelicans and put the pieces together there on their own team and come up, with a pretty good roster. But I mean, how do you count them out? And I love the insertion and the infusion of Harden into the Philadelphia 76ers lineup because they were getting 0 from Simmons. Yep. And this guy is an electrifying player when he wants to be, and very much capable of being as good a facilitator as he is a shooter and a scorer.
The Bucks are the one team I would say great because they did win a title. They've lost some of the bench, and that, like, PJ Tucker was actually a big part of their game. He's now on the Heat, and he's helping the Heat out a lot. But when you just talk surface, the Bucks are great. The Nets and the Sixers should be too. I just don't know what to do with their guys. The Heat, to me, the reason I put so much trust in them is none of their guys are like prima donnas. Like, Hero had prima donna tendencies last year, and the Heat smacked that out of him.
I think that's why they keep UD on the roster even at 50.
Yeah, I mean, well, between UD and Jimmy Butler, you're not going to get an ego on that roster. So, like, and then Lowry came over, and Lowry's very much like not ego guy. He's tough nails guy.
As I recall, you weren't overwhelmingly in favor of that move, were you, Lubie? I don't remember
I wanted Lowry.
your opinion on that. Oh, you did?
I wanted
Okay.
Lowry since the trade deadline. Yeah, no, it's very much like when they got Butler, and people were like, I don't know. I was like, that's a fucking great move. Butler was the best player on that Sixers playoff run that almost took out the Raptors. Like, I was stoked when they got Butler. I was stoked when they got Lowry because a lot of people are like, well, Dragic are similar. They're not similar. Lowry's a better passer, a much better defender, and can score just like Dragic. And he's tougher. Like Dragic, the problem with Dragic, as great of a player as he would get hurt. Like Lowry in the playoffs is going to play. Like, that dude's not missing games. Like, so that's my thing with the Heat is they're quiet. No one's paying attention to them. They are just deep. And there's not a drop-off. You said it. Like, when they go to the bench, these other teams, the bench is in. Like, the Heat's bench comes in. It's like, all right. They just keep rolling.
They hustle, too. I mean, they really do. I don't know that all NBA teams don't hustle. But, I mean, you see a pretty good vibe all the way through all of the players on that team. And that game against Chicago was very impressive the other night. I hadn't really watched as much Heat action as I would have liked to. Of course, they were off for a couple of weeks. But they look good. I don't know. I'm not sure that there's any monster in the East, even though and Boston Celtics
they played well.
Closing out the season. They got it together after a real rough start, and it looked like they were a team in disarray. And there was talk about trading Brown and or Tatum. I guess Tatum was going to stay there.
Brown.
They thought Jaylen Brown was an impediment to Tatum's progress, and that the two didn't work well in terms of compatibility on the court. And then they just started winning. I mean, and they're a real tough team. And I guess the Brooklyn Nets you can discount, although they will have Simmons. So, in essence, there's a possibility that in road games they actually have the big three. How about this 1 versus 2? I always love that when you had a 1 versus 2 in the draft, and the team that had the first pick ends up getting hosed.
Yeah.
As you had that with Greg Odom being the number 1 pick over Kevin Durant. And the more you see of Ja Morant, even if Zion Williamson was playing well, that looms as if it was a mistake to go with Zion as the number 1 pick by New Orleans, which was kind of a consensus all around the basketball world that, wow, this guy, you have to have him. And then Ja Morant, I don't know, why was he such a distant secondary consideration?
He wasn't distant. He was the second pick, and people were very happy to get Ja Morant. It's just Zion seemed LeBron-ish, like a big, strong dude who could also ball handle, who had a decent shot, who looked like he would have a better shot, and could defend 1 through 5. Like the kid, look, his issue is staying on the court. Like dying, whenever he's played, he's put up numbers. Like the dude played out of his mind. He's played like a quarter of a season at this point, I think, maybe half a year in 3 years. Whereas Ja Morant, if he misses, his team's so good now that you don't even notice it. And that's a lot to do with him. And then when he's out there, he is scary.
Comes back in and drops 45, in his very first game.
Do everything, because that's the thing.
Fans are booing. They didn't want him back. They didn't want to mess with the chemistry of the team.
He reminds people of Iverson, but the problem with him is he can shoot. Like where Iverson was super inefficient and he would shoot 50 shots and make 12. That's not Morant. Morant's super efficient.
No, much better shooter than Iverson.
He's scary, man. That guy's nuts.
Yeah.
So,
I love watching this guy play. I hope Memphis does something because it'd be nice to watch him in a couple of playoff series. All right, Scoop Skolnick. I mean, this has been great. We've been talking about rooting for a man's death to dissecting in great detail what we think about the Miami Heat and the Eastern Conference in the NBA. But we have a real authority on that coming up. And always good to have him on the show. He started his own thing, man, entrepreneurial media guy now. He's like the Elon Musk of media. Ethan Scoop Skolnick going to join us. And, of course, Scoop, he has good taste. He's a man of taste and, wealth. And he would want to go down to Hialeah Park to relax. It's a great place because it's such a distinctive, you talk about iconic sporting facilities here in South Florida. Beautiful Hialeah Park. You walk in there, you feel like the champion of the world, right? And now the champion of the world. You just feel great. And as soon as you grasp and get a piece of that atmosphere, you're thinking, my God, how much better could life be? Then you walk into the casino, and it's absolutely dazzling. I mean, alive with a vibe and a feeling that you like to take part in, right? It's like you see old scenes of casinos where everybody's happy and hopping up and down. That's the casino at Hialeah Park. Great slot machine action. Steve Calabro has jackpots going out. It seems like, on the hour, maybe even. I mean, it's just incredible the amount of money that's being won there. And then, of course, the poker room and the champion simulcasting room, fantastic. Plenty of parking all over the place. And you roll in there, you get a player's card. They greet you with all kinds of amenities and entitlements. That free play being my favorite of all of that. So it's just a great program all the way around, well run by terrific people. You're going to love it. If you're in the hospitality business, this is the way you would want a place to be. And I'm talking about beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, Scoop Skolnick, great basketball commentator. I'm equipped to talk about anything, essentially, but really dives in deeply on the Miami Heat and the NBA. So we'll get into that a little bit, and maybe he can illuminate and clarify some of the idiotic opinions that you just heard from Lubie and me about what's going on.
I don't think it's anything bad.
I don't know. I think we're on our game, man. I'm a big basketball fan. I think I have a decent grasp of what's going on out there. So, I was very impressed with the overall team. I mean, it just seemed like it was a selfless team that was out there playing the Heat against the Chicago Bulls. I really like watching that. And, all the way down to our favorite, who did not get called for a travel. And I'm waiting for that. When Deadman gets called for a travel, and they go, dead man walking. You think that'll happen, right? Mike Biamani? Wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you be inclined to do that?
Don't do it, but yes, it fits.
Dead man walking.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it would rock. Would anybody in the arena even notice that he did that? I don't know. How much attention are
That's
people
a
really
very
paying?
old reference.
Hey, Lo, did you get those beers? What? $28?
I don't want to know.
Fans don't complain, man.
No.
You can
Well,
punch
Heat-
them right in the jaw
That's
when
a
they walk in the
different.
door.
Yeah,
And they're
that's
like, hey,
like
this
South
is great because they're winning. All right, we're coming back with Scoop Skolnick in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:46. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
On the local scene, the Heat, of course, making changes. I read a very encouraging article about the Heat's prospects. Not to win the championship so much, but to at least be a very, very big factor in the Eastern Conference, Mike Lubitz. You'll be
Yes.
happy to note that somebody actually agreed with your opinion.
A lot of
Yes.
people said that. They have an interesting team, and like you said, they're the toughest team in the NBA. You wouldn't want to meet this team down an alley.
No, I mean, this a team that's going to treat everybody the way Tyson treated Mitch Blood Green if they meet in an alley.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, enough of our inept and in-depth analysis on what's going on in the Eastern Conference of the NBA. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz, on channel here. And we introduced a man. He's been on the show with us before, but the first time by video now. I guess you could call it Scoop on Skype or something along those lines. But a man I have great respect for. We did a radio show at a very ill-fated radio show, I guess it was. It was more the station than us. I really believe that, as they had converted some oldie station that had a median age listener of 100 into a sports station. And Scoop and I, of course, are on the air the first day trying to generate telephone calls going, hello, anybody out there? And, the management, you would have to say, was suspect there. Would you not agree? Ethan Scoop Skolnick, how are you, my friend?
I would agree. So this is Scoop on Sleep, actually. So
You look good, kid, man. Very refreshed. And I saw the pictures. I mean, this is great. I even got a text from the lovely and talented Leslie Visser,
Uh,
of course, worked with us on that very same ill-fated radio show, and has much to her, questioning her sanity, has stuck with us, to our present state. But she said that she saw these pictures of you with your daughter on this camping trip, and I don't think Jewish people camp, do they? We don't camp. Camping to us is finding the strawberry on the pillow of the Ritz-Carlton. I mean, what are you talking about on a trip over to Naples? But she said you look so sensationally happy, Scoop. I want to congratulate you because, part of your entrepreneurial thing now at 5 Reasons Sports Network came about because, like me at one time, maybe there was a little bit of a jackpot and everybody turned their back on you.
Yeah, I will say, typically for us Jewish folks, it's is Uber Eats in range? And
Don't tell me you didn't have a cell phone on you for a couple
no,
of days.
no, I did have a cell phone. We only rough it to a certain extent, but
Yeah.
I made a Publix run with somebody. I ran in, and it was Lake Wales, and they had one register open, and 30 folks at the register, and I thought the guy was going to leave me, and I'm thinking, do they have Uber here? Do they have cabs? Am I walking back to the campsite? How does this work? But no,
Yeah.
we made it out okay. I'm a little bruised about it. Sleeping on a bunk for the first time since I was about 8 years old. That was a little bit challenging, but we're good, and it's good to hear that Leslie's good too.
Yeah, no, she said wanted to pass that along. That I never seen Scoop look happier. Right, you were always a very serious guy, and this was great. All right, I guess it's kind of a dumb way to put this question, but not uncommon. I know you've been on the show before, but the Heat are they really a championship caliber team? I mean. They seem to be good. I really like, I watched this last game against Chicago, and I'm thinking everything you said, came, manifesting itself in front of my eyes. That Spoelstra runs the same stuff for the backups that he does, for the regulars, and they sometimes even enhance that play, and everybody's contributing. It seems like they have tremendous chemistry together. But they're the best in the East right now, I guess is the way I wanted to put this. They're the best in the East right now. Are they really the best in the East?
Well, I think this is Eric's best work. I think we start there. I just think if you look at the way he's put this thing together, not just with the veteran guys who obviously haven't played a lot together. I mean, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler and Lowry have played like fewer than 150 minutes together this entire season. So, I mean, that's their so-called big four or 3.5 or whatever it is you want to call it. And they haven't really had it together. And he's had to plug in, these guys who are essentially Miami Heat creations. I mean, developmental projects who we're kind of taking for granted right now. Like the idea that Gabe Vincent steps in as a starter and gives you 20 and doesn't have a turnover. And this was a guy who this offseason, a lot of Heat fans were not comfortable with. I mean, I had conversations with the Heat front office, and I reported these things that they were going to go with Gabe Vincent as their backup point guard. And the response from a lot that I got on Heat Twitter was, what? Like, they're not going to go get a veteran guy? I mean, this guy hasn't shot the ball well at this level so far. But again, he's a perfect example of what they've accomplished here. I mean, he was a really good shooter in the G League. They didn't really know what else they had. He couldn't shoot in the NBA. They completely redid his mechanics, and he struggled through that. And now he's come out. He's shooting 38% from three as a backup point guard. So they've done a remarkable job. Now, are they a championship contender? I think any team that's first in the East with 20 games left, you have to consider them a contender. I mean, I just think we're past the point of doubting it. I do think the one thing that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for them, and I think that's why the single biggest development for them has been the increased aggressiveness from Bam Adebayo, because the biggest challenge in the playoffs for a team that has good depth and has survived to a certain degree because of their depth is that the best players in the playoffs play more minutes. Okay, they're going to be going against teams that, with the exception of Budenholzer, sometimes they'll sit Giannis too long, which we've talked about. But they will, the best players, the Durant's when he's healthy, the Embiid's, the Hardens, the Giannis's, their minutes are going to increase. So that means that the Heat are going to shrink their rotation because their best players are going to end up having to play more minutes. So the question is, when those other stars elevate in the playoffs, what are you getting from Jimmy? What are you getting from Kyle? What are you getting from Tyler? But in particular, what are you getting for Bam? Okay. Is Bam ready to be a top 20 guy on the offensive end also on a consistent basis? If that's the case, they can get to the finals, but their best players are going to need to be great. And obviously, we saw in the playoffs last year when they were both awful, they got swept. So I think you got to watch that now, but they've done a tremendous job in the regular season.
Bulls are supposedly banged up in this match, which was for first place, at least at this point, in the Eastern Conference. But they're having a surprisingly good year. DeRozan has blossomed beyond, I think. I don't know. I mean, has he even surprised you? We knew he was a very good player, but was he this? And, you have a lot of young guys contributing there. Milwaukee still has, you would have to say, a formidable big three, if not in name value, besides the Greek. But Drew Holiday and Middleton are great complementary players for Giannis's talents, and they have a few other guys there that also are contributors. And now Philadelphia with Harden becomes a very interesting component of the equation to me. Boston, you can't leave them out. It seems to be very much wide open. I mean, how much differential would you say is there between any of the top 5 contenders in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, and then you have to throw in the wild card of the Nets because you just don't know what they're going to look like when they're healthy. Even though right now they look awful, but they don't have Durant, and we're probably going to see Durant on Thursday. That's the targeted return for him, so we'll probably see him against the Heat. The East, to me, is as competitive as it's been probably in 20 years. I think when you look at how many teams of quality, there's no dominant team because Milwaukee, as much as I respect them and you have to go through them, they're not as good as last year. Now, they've been really good when their top 3 have played, but unless they get Brook Lopez back, that's a different team than they had last season because Brook was so important to what they did. Also with Bam, he creates problems for Bam because he drops on Bam and forces Bam to be aggressive. And you have to see that happen in a playoff series before we can completely 100% believe it. Okay. So, but they're not as good in part because the Heat took PJ Tucker from them. And I think that's a huge loss. And it's going to play itself out in a playoff series because PJ is going to be the guy guarding Giannis a lot of the time. So I just think that when you look at Milwaukee, they're really good, but they're not dominant. But there are, as you mentioned, 5 or 6 teams that I think you have to worry about. Now, Boston is the one that I didn't really buy, and I don't know if I still buy them, but they are defending. I will say that. And they do have 2 guys who can take over a game. And so you have to throw them in the mix. Toronto is not going to be an easy out in the first round. They're not particularly deep. They don't have a ton of shooting, but they're long. They're athletic. They can put a lineup on the floor that can really give the Heat problems with their length. We've seen that a couple of times. There's really not an easy match. I mean, right now the Heat would be in a 1-8 with the Nets. I mean, do you really want to see Durant in the first round? So that's why I say, like, this Heat team, are they a contender? Absolutely. Could they go to the finals? Absolutely. Could they lose a hard-fought 7-game series in the second round? Absolutely. And I think that's where we get into, the guy who I think is coming back on March 7th, which is Victor Oladipo, because as well as guys like Martin and Vincent and Strus and others have played, this guy was a 2-time All-Star. And the reports I'm getting are really good. Okay, really good. They've taken their time with him. Apparently the surgery has worked. He's not having discomfort. If you get 85% of 2-time All-Star Victor Oladipo, you can close games. In games that Tyler's getting hunted defensively, you can close games defensively with a group of Bam, PJ, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, and Victor Oladipo. We haven't seen a defensive group like that to close games in the playoffs, probably going back to the Piston teams of Billups, Hamilton, Rashid, Ben Wallace, and Tayshaun Prince. I mean, that is going to be tough and you can close games on defense in the playoffs. So, and then you have Tyler to kind of come in and do the offense-defense thing and create. So he could be absolutely the X factor. I think you got to watch Brook Lopez's return, Oladipo's return, how Harden kind of works with Embiid, Durant, Kyrie, Simmons, and how they mesh. There's a lot of sort of unknowns, but it's going to be a really, really good postseason.
Well, and the thing for the Heat, and it's something in that clip we played before, it's not physical toughness, mental toughness. And every other team, including the Bucks, Giannis has his issues at the line, and Middleton will just go away for quarters. Like, this team, it's not only because of the depth, but because of the great players they have, Lowry, Butler, all have that lunchman mentality, and it's why they got to a finals 2 years ago. And now Hero and Bam are better, and Hero and Bam are more aggressive. So it's not they're great, they're the contender. It's just where the other teams lack when it comes to playoff intensity. This team feels like that's what they're waiting for. That's the only reason I've sort of the last month or so when Bam has just become a freaking monster offensively. It's like, okay, if he's willing to do that, and then you get Oladipo as a bench guy, that could be scary when you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference and the way they're made up for the playoffs. And
well, and that's the thing, Lubie. Like, okay, we can talk about the struggles, the adversity that they faced this year, but really, and they have. They haven't had their top four together. But with that said, everything you kind of have wanted to happen so far this year has happened or started to happen, right? Kyle Lowry looks like a quarterback, right? That they won out. He looks like he was worth the money, okay, at least for now. Bam which I thought was the single most important thing this season, is Bam, and Bam has made a leap. Okay, it's not the full leap yet because we got to see it every game, but he's made a leap, and he is the best defensive player in the NBA. I don't care if he wins the award or not. We just did an episode of that of 5 on the floor last night. It's not close. Okay, Rudy Gobert gets played off the playoffs and played off the court in the last 6 minutes of a playoff game. I don't know how he's the de facto defensive player of the year every year. He cannot do what Bam does. Okay, so the only guy in the league who can do, two guys in the league can do what Bam does, and they're Giannis and Draymond. And Draymond has missed as much time now as Bam has. Okay, so Bam should be in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. But with that said, and now then you look, Tyler Hero. Okay, after a mini step back last year, would he take a step forward? He's taken a huge step forward. The young guys fitting in, as role guys, Gabe Vincent, etc. Caleb Martin as a two-way. Okay, would you have enough depth? I mean, look at the holes that he's plugged for them. And now Oladipo, which seems to be on target, okay, for exactly what you expected. So all of that stuff has worked out. Their mental toughness, there's no question. I have one issue with them, and I, this is why I want to see their core guys together in the last 20 games, because the end of game offensive execution could be a problem in the postseason. And if you slip once or twice, you're out. And, they have to get away from this idea, or Spo does, okay? And I understand why he does it. He has always done it. He defers to his star. I had conversations with him in the last few years of Dwayne's career. Are you always just going to let Dwayne shoot that step back, okay, when he doesn't create quite the way he used to? And Eric said to me, I'll go to my grave with Dwayne Wade at the end of the game. Well, you may go to your grave with Jimmy Butler at the end of the game if you're just going to rely on that, okay? They need to figure out a way to play through others. It doesn't mean that Jimmy can't create. He's great at creating. He gets to the line, but you don't want him dribbling down the clock and taking that shot. So it's Hero's creation at the end of the game, his ability to get into the creases and hit that floater in addition to the deep shot. And it's also playing through Bam, not just the dribble handoffs, but getting the ball to Bam at the free throw line and him attacking and going and getting to the line. They have options. One of their options is Kyle Lowry, who helped close the NBA Finals 3 years ago. But they haven't found the formula yet at the end of games. The formula with the Nets is going to be give the ball to Kevin Durant and get the hell out of the way. The formula with Philadelphia, we'll see how it works with Harden and Embiid, but they certainly have options. Milwaukee, Giannis has missed some free throws, but they proved last year they can make plays at the end. That is, that's kind of, they have to figure out the end of the game stuff. But if they can figure that out, they can absolutely go to the NBA Finals.
I had visions of Mark Jackson in the low post when you were talking about Jimmy Butler in the final moments of the game. Very professionally done, by the way. You should own a sports streaming service or something.
Yeah.
Ethan Scoop Skolnick. Brilliant performance today. One quick final thing. Do you buy our theory that when LeBron James plays his final season with Bronny, his son, it'll be for a team in Israel as opposed to the NBA? Is that more likely to happen? Yeah.
Tel Aviv or Jerusalem? Shalom. Bronny's looking like a second-round pick right now, so why the Heat. That's why the Heat picked up another one. But Are the Lakers on national television this moment? It feels like it's 24/7 coverage. We get more coverage of the Lakers than we get of Ukraine.
They even had a shot of LeBron learning Hebrew from Amari Stoudemire. That's what made me think of this. Scoop, always a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Great stuff as always.
Baruch atah Adonai. Have a good night, everybody.
Shalom, my friend.
I only know the prayer of Hawaiian, Lubie. Do you find that odd?
Well, in Manish Tana, you randomly remember the Manish Tana.
Yeah. Manish Tana Halel Azam, Mikal Halelo, Shivakal Halelo, Sanu Aklim. And the rest of it. I don't know Eloheinu. I don't know. Yeah. That's where it gets stuck in your ear. Yep. This is the only show, right? We talked about Ozzy Osbourne checking out, and now we're speaking to you in Hebrew. We'll be speaking in tongues soon. No, we have the great one himself. It's old school with Tony Segreto. Many things to talk about with Tony. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services. And Tony's going to join us here in just a few minutes as we continue with the Defo Show. Scoop Skolnick, brilliant stuff, man. I mean, what a dissection of this thing. I mean, and then he names off the starting lineup of like the 62 Pistons. It was incredible. See, we can't do that anymore. I mean, it took me a half hour to come up with Amari Stoudemire with a yarmulke on. Tony's up next here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz returning in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:05.
It's Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor, where are we going this time?
Welcome back to the show. Good to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz. Wednesday, always among our favorite days of the week because we get to spend time with our good friend. I mean, just a real mensch of a human being and one of the longtime sportscasters and newscasters here in South Florida. I mean, he mowed them all down. Ralph Rennick and Bishop. I mean, many of the greats. And sure enough, we're happy to have him with us here on the show. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services. We bring you the great, legendary Tony Segreto. Tony, how are you, my friend? Oh, we got to get your microphone turned on here.
There we go.
There you go.
There you go.
That was an old trick that didn't Bernie Rosen teach you?
Yeah,
no.
You know,
is
I
like
have
very
this.
critical.
I have this mic, and it tells you mute and unmute, but it doesn't show you the sign in which you need to do it. But
Yeah.
I feel sort of honored here. You end the segment before me speaking Hebrew, and then you
Yes.
mention me as a mensch. I mean,
Yes.
come on, man. I'm like,
a sugar mensch,
I have
but a
to,
mensch,
I have to
nonetheless.
tell you, I have to just share something with you. And I just, this past weekend, was honored. I mean, really honored to be invited to this wedding at Temple Emmanuel on Miami Beach, the oldest temple on the beach. And it
Stephen
was,
Ross's granddaughter?
No,
she didn't get married. All right.
but the love was palpable in that room. The way the ceremony, the rabbi was absolutely phenomenal in his love and his approach to welcoming people who don't normally obviously go to a synagogue, and those of other faiths like myself,
Yeah.
honoring them in that synagogue. It was a beautiful moment beyond what the sense of marriage was and how
So who got married,
that
man?
went.
I mean, it sounds like somebody
Friends of
famous.
mine,
Oh, okay.
friends of, no, friends of mine. But you know what? Do you need to be famous to get married? That day, you're famous.
No, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, it hasn't worked out so well for me, Tony.
Let's
as
put
you
it.
know.
Let's put
I
it.
mean, well documented.
Well, yeah. I wonder if you have anything to do with that.
No, I mean, I've been the consistent asshole that I always have. I guess I don't know. I mean, my relationships with women mostly were favorable, but unfortunately, not necessarily so with the women I married. I mean, that's just the way it went.
Hanging out.
No,
in
I mean
college.
it's all good. I mean, you go through life. You have. This is very
grow
philosophical along religious lines, but you have your path, and you have to take what comes along with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think
maybe I didn't have to be such a dick, is what you're implying, right, Tony?
I'm just saying you're the constant in all of this.
I mean, I was happily married. I altogether, I
Look
guess
at
it's
Lubie,
like
how
18
happy.
years. Yeah.
Look at Lubie, how happy
But
he
he
is.
was 0 for 1 going into the
He's
second.
posting. Yeah,
I mean, a bad 0 for 1. He struck out on 3 pitches looking.
He's posting pictures of cats now.
But he's lost his
on
mind,
social media.
Tony. This business will turn you to mush. You know this. You're the one. I mean, you're like the lone survivor. You're like Wahlberg in that movie about the soldiers that were outmanned. I mean, very applicable to what's happening right now. Well, unfortunately, in Ukraine, which I mean, my God, it's hard to imagine that we're all verklempt over the baseball lockout and potential strike.
I was just going to mention that.
When missiles are striking apartment houses in Kyiv, and wow, I mean, what an inspiring thing. I mean, the Klitschko's are out there with gloves on, ready to mow these Russians down. It's great.
It's remarkable to me. And listen, we're gonna venture off 95 for a second and do talk about what you just mentioned. I just want to say this one thing. If you don't have the deepest respect and want to give a standing ovation to the president of Ukraine and what
this guy was a comedian. I mean, like 10 years
he was
ago.
a comedian.
Yeah.
He played the president on a TV show.
Yeah.
When he's elected, people are sort of chuckling, going like, "What is this?" Meantime, I mean, I'm gonna paraphrase if I don't get it correctly. What was it when the United States offered him an opportunity for he and his family to leave?
Favorite line ever.
And his response was, "I need ammunition. I don't need a ride." I mean, come on.
I don't know if you have Marco Rubio
brilliant.
making that statement if the Russians were invading the coast of Florida.
He's still trying to hang on to his water.
No,
where's that water? I need water. I need water.
I'm fascinated by news coverage. I mean, Vietnam, of course, was a war that was somewhat televised. I mean, we saw clips every night of things going on, and I mean, one of the great things you had a lot of just very brave reporting being done.
Richard Engel for NBC now.
Cronkite putting a helmet on there and walking around where there's gunfire and an exchange of fire and you're seeing. It's fascinating to me to watch the news coverage of this, even though. My wonder is, hey, if you see these 40 miles of convoys coming into the capital city there, would somebody from this whole united, world that we have now against Russia and Putin just like fly in there and take them out? I don't know. There has to be a way to do this. No.
Yeah. Listen,
I mean, beyond just praying for the fact that you would like to see these guys all survive and ultimately prevail, which, doesn't necessarily look likely.
I was saying to my wife, she came in the other day and she goes, "Man, can you believe how Richard Engel is just, he's got his helmet on, he's got his flak jackets on."
Those guys were great, man.
I go, yeah. I said, but people forget you were watching Richard Engel. What about the poor people, the guys and the women who are holding the cameras? They're the ones that got to keep it all steady. They're the ones that got to make them, appear and look good and find the spots.
Yeah.
It's an incredible thing.
Imagine when you had like a grip also, with like carrying the recorder on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Like 2 guys attached together and they're running around. I had a little experience with this. My dad edited a book many years ago, and it actually relates to one of my great sporting experiences as like maybe an 8-year-old Deforrest. as there was a war correspondent named Jim Lucas. He was a very famous war correspondent. He wrote a book. My dad was working for a company that took the hardcover book and edited it into a paperback form. So he's working with this guy pretty consistently. And as a thank you gesture, the guy was really connected, as you might imagine, in Washington, D.C. He takes me, an 8-year-old Deforrest, into the press box and into the locker room for a Washington Senators game.
Oh, how big is that?
Yeah, well, big is the key word there, because who does he introduce me to but Frank Howard, who was with the Senators at the time, and the guy shakes my little 8-year-old hand and literally lifted me off the floor, man. And I was in awe, though, of everything. I mean, because I loved all of this stuff, and I was a huge baseball fan, and to be in this atmosphere was just incredible. So I thank this man, who was a very brave, and prominent war correspondent in the Vietnam War.
How cool is that? But you bring up something. I'm so sick and tired. You're watching what's going on with Ukraine. You're watching these poor people. You're watching these refugees. You're watching people hear over the loudspeaker in the train station that the train that just left is the last train that they could have possibly gotten on. They're holding their children. Children are crying. I mean, and then you turn the TV on and you're hearing, well, it may not have baseball. And you walk away going, $700,000. Okay, and on baseball. Yeah. We're at a time, especially there in that sport, where I love baseball, you love baseball, Defo, Lubie, you love baseball. I don't know, and again, no disrespect to the level that Defo and I mean, we grew up in the heydays of Say Hey Willie,
it was
and
the game. There's no
the
doubt.
Great Mick, and I can still you talk about Ethan reciting the starting lineup of the Pistons. I could still to this day recite, and I'm sure you can too, recite the starting lineup of the Yankees in '61
in Bob Shepard's voice.
In Bob Shepard's voice. But now, not a lot of people care about baseball.
Yeah.
And the people who
somebody must, though, Tony. Where is this capital coming from?
Exactly.
Even if you were a TV entity, you were in this business and understand it, in great detail. I mean, if you were a TV entity and nobody really cared about this shit, in other words, they're not watching baseball, then why would you pay them zillions of dollars? I mean, are they that desperate to fill airtime? Somebody must be interested in this. Somebody has to be.
Yeah, the advertisers, apparently.
But somebody has to be watching it. I mean, for it to generate this level of income.
This is a big world, and our little haven is one part of it.
Yeah.
But I think that to think that you think it's going to be okay. Listen, is there anything better than April 1st and 2nd? If you're a baseball fan, you're thinking opening day. You just want to figure out where I can go for opening day. Now we're thinking maybe May 1, May 2, and that'll be okay. Really? That's going to be okay. We're cutting the season down like that. But
I don't mind seeing a season cut down, especially if it was by design. I mean,
all I know is that I'm tired of it. I don't know about you, but I'm so tired of it. And listen, I know everybody wants to get their due, and I get that. But let's figure it out. Let's not. Especially for those who are the diehard fans, they want to go to a game. They want to see it. They want that distraction.
Sports fans, and it's also something that's often pondered by the media and anybody else that's observing these sort of things. And I understand the nature of all labor agreements is that nothing happens until it's absolutely necessary, until you're getting literally a call from the governor and you got to take the guy out of the electric chair or whatever, and that's when they finally make a deal. But it seems so stupid, doesn't it? Right? I mean, they call for this lockout like 45 days before they ever, sit down to even discuss, the fact that they're miles apart and nobody wants to budge. Why not? I mean, I never understood this. Why these, organizations don't get together and say, well, neither of us benefit if we postpone the season.
Right, and trying to get fan support.
So why don't we get it together and start talking now? I mean, when it starts.
That's I was going to bring that up. It's like, could we have waited any longer?
What's the point?
Start these talks? And then who are they? Are they hoping that the fans or somebody supports them at this point in time in our lives and what's going on in the world? Do people really have time to do any of that? They don't care. They're worried more about how they're going to pay for the gas at the pump, right? They're worried more about how, if they go to the grocery store, is what they want going to be on the shelf.
Yeah. I mean, the game has its inherent problems now, which were part of its
Yeah.
charm, which is unfortunate. I mean,
Yeah.
there was no clock, and you might catch. I remember staying for like 18 innings
Oh
of an
yeah,
extra
for
inning game,
sure.
and thinking I'm not leaving until they make the final out. Now I'm not that way anymore because I'd probably be asleep by the fourth inning. But I mean,
Was there anything better than going to a doubleheader?
I
I'm
loved it,
telling
man.
you, in
I
this,
told you,
yeah,
Father's Day in 1964. I'm there for Jim Bunning's perfect game, and
oh, you
that
were?
brings up
That's
the
right.
magic question. When I was at Shea Stadium, Phillies and the Mets, and the Mets weren't very good, and they were. I don't even know if it was an accomplishment to no hit that Met team, but nonetheless, at what point does the crowd start rooting for the other guy to accomplish something phenomenal? Because there wasn't
Yeah.
much to cheer for with that Mets team that year, and I think it was about like the seventh or eighth inning. See now, would you be rooting for your team to bust it up? Or for you to be in a situation where you witnessed a piece of baseball history, if it was the opposition doing it to you in your home park?
I guess it depends on what it is. I went to a doubleheader when in '61. I actually went to I was at Yankee Stadium for a doubleheader and watched Maris hit 2 home runs, one in each game. Um, but if there's greatness there, I don't mind seeing greatness, even if it's against your team. Um, but to watch your team get destroyed, that's hard.
See,
That's
I'm rooting
hard.
for the Mets to get a hit or
Yeah,
at least
yeah,
have a
anything.
walk,
Yeah, I mean,
strike out, and get to first base on a
Hey,
pass ball. Which
when the
I don't know. Does that break up? Yeah, that would at least give him
yeah,
another out. But until the game is over, and then
yeah.
once he does it, then you
yeah,
stand, and give the guy an appropriate ovation.
Oh
No,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
all right.
Listen, how about that? When the Dolphins were 0-15 and they finally get that win,
Yes.
it was like, oh man, this is like we want to just see it. We want to just see it. We want to be there. We want to say we were there and experienced it.
Greg Camarillo, wasn't that the guy's name?
The great Greg Camarillo.
Camarillo, he etched his way into Dolphin history by
Yep.
saving Cam Cameron from the absolutely futile embarrassment of going 0-16.
Cam
And even then,
Cameron.
right? It took it
There was
took
a brilliant hire. It was a brilliant hire, right? Cam Cameron.
Brian Billick, right? The coach of the Ravens. Didn't he do some weird maneuver that also kept them from
Yeah.
either tying that game or
Yeah.
being in a better position to win it, and so they needed everything to go their way, and and the Dolphins for years, Tony, this, never returned a punt,
Yeah.
or a kick.
Ever.
Yeah, I mean they went a long spell there where they never had a return guy, and I still remember, and you probably have this indelibly impressed. With all of the video that you had to show of Scott Schwade's making a fair
Oh
catch
yeah.
signal,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
Shula on the sidelines going, "Good, just catch it, Scotty, please."
Yeah. Hold on to it, please,
The
please.
former Syracuse great. All right, speaking
Yeah,
of greats, we have just an absolute giant in the restaurant industry joining us right now. Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, of course, proud sponsors of the old school segment here and the Defo Show on the Defo Show. Ed Garcia joins us, regional manager, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, sensational places. Ed, how are you, my friend?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you this morning?
We are doing great. Hey, listen, any movement on getting us there for the Derby to talk about a little old school?
Right away, you start snoring. You are Jewish, Tony.
I love it. Right for the juggler. Absolutely working on that. Would love to see you up that way. But you got to be wearing the full outfit. I know it's a radio show, but I got to see the suspenders, the hat, and whole nine yards.
Seersucker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We
the
would be more
seersucker
than
too.
happy to.
yes.
Yeah.
Listen, we're all in. Whatever we need to do, we're all in. But we're talking about all these things that are going on around the world, and yet we're sitting here very blessed to be able to speak to you and talk about the great food at Texas Roadhouse. And I was just talking about it with somebody again the other day, and it just seems to kind of follow us to come up on a Wednesday when they paid all this money to get a steak at a restaurant with all the the hubbub and the noise and all of these things. And I'm going, why don't you just go to the Texas Roadhouse with your family? And he goes, I hear you guys talk about that all the time. I plan on doing that because I can't be paying this kind of money anymore. And it wasn't just about the money. It was about the entire experience. And that's what we keep saying. It's not just how great the food is and that you get a great price, but it's the entire atmosphere and how you're treated when you go to Texas Roadhouse. And that is testimony to the culture in which this company was built on.
Love hearing that, Tony. I mean, I tell you, our mission.
Tony had
statement
me
is
tearing
simple.
up there. That was great, man. He's the
Yeah,
best at that. There's
I
nobody better than
love it.
Segreto.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, our mission statement's 4 words. 2 of them are the same: legendary food and legendary service. And we take so much time and pride in just making sure that the food is fantastic. I mean, you were with us before. We walked through and all the checks and the tasting and the testing and everything else. But then the service is just so important. And really, it's just not dining. It's an experience that what we want to provide with the line dancing, you know, and just really getting to know that guest and making sure that they have a great time. So
Yeah.
love hearing that.
I don't think the line dancing should be dismissed, because I remember when my children were little and we would go to Disney World, they would always want to go to this one restaurant in Fort Wilderness when they would have the stick horse races, because they wanted to be on the stick horse race, you know, and get everybody involved. And it's not just the line dancing, but you talk about service. When you ask your server about a dish that you're wondering whether you should get, that server is so well schooled on that dish. They've had it, they've tasted it, they've gone through it before, and they're honest about telling you if you should order it or not. And Ed, I think that's pretty darn cool that you can find that at a restaurant. Sometimes the servers have never tried it, or they go, well, it's been in the kitchen and people love it, seem to love it, so, you know, try it. It's not one of those things you can just do.
Right, absolutely. You know, I think with one of these next sporting events that are coming up, just an idea, we should get a little bit of wager going. And whoever does not win the wager, you know, we'll come in and bring them into Texas Roadhouse. And I'm going to teach either, you know, Depot, you, Tony, how to line dance, and we'll get you line dancing.
Oh, that would be awesome. I think that would be.
I'm all in on that.
You'd have to be Anne Bancroft and the Miracle Worker to teach us to dance.
That would be.
That
would be great. That would be great. Well, Ed, listen, I know you got things planned as we go into this part of the season with spring break happening and everything. I'm
Wolverine
sure
basketball too. Tony.
Yeah, we got
come on.
NBA basketball. We have March Madness. And I'm sure that the restaurant's going to be cooking with all of those sporting events and all the things that are coming up for you.
Absolutely. Come in, check us out, have a great time. Don't forget about our mobile app. Do most of your waiting at home versus having to wait the long lines to get on in. But we're here to provide you a great time, great food, and great service.
Absolutely. And that mobile app is amazing. It is the best mobile app I have ever used in terms of food or a restaurant. Absolutely. Ed, thanks a lot, bud. We look forward to seeing you soon. And we're all in on that bet. We're all in on that bet. Me and Lubie will definitely do that line dance.
Thanks, Ed.
That's it. There's nothing quite like you. Listen, we boast about it, but you all have to go. You have to try Texas.
Good spot, man.
It's a great place.
I'll say this too, on behalf of Ed Garcia and Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, because we have the Gambling Gourmet, Mike Mayo, on the show on Fridays, Degenerate Fridays, and we've been doing a little radio show during the week, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, right? So this is largely based on the following that he has on this Facebook page, 75,000 followers on this thing called Let's Eat South Florida, which is, all about restaurants and the restaurant business. And one of the constants, Tony, that you will see about Texas Roadhouse, and you alluded to this, and so this is a very cynical site. Like, if it wasn't this way, you would know about it.
Yeah.
Is that the service is always outstanding.
Yeah.
At Texas Roadhouse. Everybody really embraces the service there, which is such a big key, to having a good restaurant experience. It's a big part of it. Food, of course, is number one, but it's right there, a very close second.
And it's such a fine balance. You want your food to come out hot. You don't want to be waiting long for your food, but at the same time, you don't want to be rushed. You don't want to feel like you're being rushed to eat.
Yeah.
So to be able to master that,
you don't want to feel like you have leprosy over there in the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they ignore you for like hours.
And you know what you'll never have happen to you at Texas Roadhouse? If you order a beer or a drink, you'll never get a glass with a hole in it. You know what I mean by that? It won't be empty for long.
Oh yeah,
they're always coming around going, you want another drink or something? You're like going, I'm getting parched here.
Yeah. Sloshed would be more appropriate. But no, fine establishment. Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Recommend them wholeheartedly. More with Tony Segreto. A lot more things to go over with.
Hey, we got a lot to talk about here, man.
We've been all over the map here. Although you did prove that you do have at least components of being, a tribal member along with Lubie and me, because your first move was to schnorr for a trip to the Derby.
That was like the first thing. That
Some
was
very expensive accommodations.
Hey,
Hey, I'm
Before you
looking
even
out.
said,
Hey,
"Hey,
listen,
Ed,
I'm
how
not
are
doing
you
this.
on this fine Wednesday? We're going
I
old
am
school
not
here."
doing this as the Lone Ranger, Kimosabe. I'm including all
I think
three
it's
of us
fabulous.
here.
Yeah, no, I think it's
I love
fabulous.
it. That's right.
I had to divert my NCAA tournament trip from Vegas to Atlantic City, by the way, which is a poor man's Las Vegas, Atlantic City, New Jersey. Not quite the same vibe as you would get, but the itch to be just in this atmosphere of a bunch of degenerate sickos in a large sort of theater type place watching these games, and maybe have a little action on the side there. Well, not even on the side. I mean, right up front in these sports books. It kind of compel me to try and at least go in another direction. Flights were awful to go to Las Vegas. Absolutely awful. The timing of them.
Oh yeah, but you could also get Lotrimin for that itch. Just saying.
Well, what about these Michigan Wolverines? I thought you were going to touch on that with Ed Garcia. Do they not have? Do they have a little shot, Lubie? Michigan Wolverines, or am I dreaming
They're
about
struggling. I haven't paid attention enough. You know more than I do.
Yeah, but listen. First of all,
Juwan Howard comes back. He smacks a couple of people in the face
before we go to break. I want to applaud, and I forget the guy who posted and exposed the NCAA. They should just be exposed all the time because it's a joke. But expose the NCAA about the disparity between the men and the women, and what's going on with postseason basketball. And finally, the NCAA comes out and says, "Yeah, we've investigated and we are going to change it." Well, really, you had to get exposed in order to do that.
How do they even exist anymore, though?
I
mean,
don't
there is
know.
absolutely it seems
It's
zero use for the NCAA, as a lot of
absolutely.
people believed was the case all along. But
Yeah.
but now more so than ever, right? I mean, what were they regulating? They were regulating, indiscretions with the rules, which were ridiculous, which we know everybody was in violation of, probably at all times. And then they, sort of indiscriminately, went about and they just chose certain targets and just
I'll
pounded
flex
those.
my muscle here. I'll flex my muscle at
I mean,
Miami.
how many defensive University of Miami stories did you have to report on where yet more ridiculous allegations, which, probably were true, but nonetheless, they weren't picking on Ohio State.
No.
You didn't see Notre Dame under this kind of scrutiny. Yeah.
No, you didn't.
Sure, Nick is clean. Do you believe Nick is
Bama's
completely
never
clean?
met-
Squeaky, Tony.
Yeah, Bama. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Could you imagine?
Perfection.
We're not going to touch Bama. We're not going to touch Michigan. We're not going to touch Ohio State.
No.
God forbid, right?
But we'll pick on
Urban Meyer's at Ohio State, and they never looked into anything, right?
Exactly.
Nothing. Urban Meyer.
What a combo.
Guy was taking guys out of prison on work release, picking them up on the road, and starting them the next week for Florida.
Exactly.
I'm serious. It seemed. I don't even want to laugh because it really wasn't.
It's just a joke.
It's a joke, but it's also the reality of it is very disgusting to think about.
Because you're
now that you can pay recruits, to come to your school. The transfer thing, Jim Larinaga, and we're going to come back. Maybe we'll talk about this. It was sort of fascinating about how this has impacted college basketball, the transfer portal, because you don't know. I mean, a team can change dramatically. Two guys, coming in via transfer that are impact players for your basketball team can go a long way towards changing the whole dynamic of the season, and that's what he's saying.
It used to be said that if you changed a college coach, no matter what school it was a 4-year transition. It would take 4 years for them to rebuild that program. Not so anymore with that transfer portal.
Yeah, you can.
Don't sleep on Iona too.
Iona,
special, yes. No, I'm going to make some bets on. If they get in, which
Liberty.
Liberty's always a factor now. I mean, the Liberty quarterback, by the way, is that right?
Malik
Willis is going to be the number one quarterback.
It might be the number one quarterback.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Coming back with more with Tony. Of course, don't forget about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Great place to chill out. We're going to get down there. Final arrangements are being made, Tony. Yeah.
Will you let me know about that?
Well, we might be at the Derby
What's
first
that?
before we get down to Jimmy Johnson's, but let's hope we win a lot of money so we can go ahead and really have a party while we're down there. It's going to be fantastic. Mile marker 104, and that's in Key Largo, the Overseas Highway. Just a beautiful spot. You see the pictures done. Great job. The lovely Amy put that together for us.
Oh,
The
it's
visuals.
beautiful.
And you know what? It
It's
does kind of
inviting. It's
take you
so
there. Yeah, I
inviting.
mean,
Yeah,
it does
it's
take you
great.
there. And then when you're actually sitting down at the bar there and having some of that great food, Dominic and Jemmy, you
Yeah.
speak about Mensch families. I mean, the Kajemi family, top
Oh,
notch always. I mean, very, very respectable in everything they do, including this culinary effort by his brother Dominic. Fantastic. Dominic's wife Amanda runs the shop there. They have a sports bar, which is fantastic. You're taking in a tournament, great idea, and the vibe is just as soon as you exit Florida City. Would you agree, Tony? As
oh
soon as
yeah.
you exit Florida City, the whole vibe changes. All of a sudden, you're like on a Caribbean island. It's absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic.
As soon as you cross Florida City, you
Yeah.
got to turn on the Jimmy Buffett channel. Yeah, you got to listen to Buffett
Yeah.
or Bob Marley, one of the two.
Yeah, ready to waste away in Margaritaville, man. Yeah, you even enjoy the sounds of the steel drummer who's out there. But no, they have great bands there too, all day long on the weekends. I mean, all throughout. You're thinking, all right, maybe they got a house band. They're going to play there for like 6 hours and take a few breaks. Different band coming in there like every couple of hours. Fantastic. Just a great vibe, great place to go, great place to relax. They have great accommodations also. You can find out about those at jimmyjohnsons.com, jimmyjohnsonsbigchill.com, and check it out for yourself. Great place to relax. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, Overseas Highway in Key Largo. More with Tony coming up. Lots more to discuss with the great Tony Segreto. Old School with Tony Segreto, also brought to you by Catholic Health Services. We'll tell you more about that wonderful organization in a moment as well. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He's Mike Lubitz. Returning with more on Ion Channel in a moment. Now that. It's 8:35. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
The local scene, the Heat, of course, making changes. I read a very encouraging article about the Heat's prospects. Not to win the championship so much, but to at least be a very, very big factor in the Eastern Conference, Mike Lubitz. You'll be happy to note that somebody actually agreed with your opinion.
A lot of people said that. They have an interesting team, and like you said, they're the toughest team in the NBA. You wouldn't want to meet this team down an alley.
No, I mean, a team that's going to treat everybody the way Tyson treated Mitch Blood Green if they meet in an alley.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here on Ion Channel. You can Google the Defo Show, catch all of the different activities that happen on the program, including tomorrow. We have the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Dave Gurgly is on board. Paulie Mann still parts unknown. And then, of course, we do Degenerate Friday. We'll have the professor zeroing in on some college basketball. And a sensational hit segment on the program, Tony. And Tony Segreto's with us here, going old school, as he always does every Wednesday, is now the Professor's Big Board. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this.
Is that like a Steve Kornacki board?
You know what? It really kind of is in some ways. And brilliance has been coming from the professor the last 3 weeks since he started this thing. So something else. I don't know how he's going to top. each successive week, you're thinking, how's he going to top that? And he's been doing it. And so I don't know if he's going to tee off on the city of Boston this week, because that's his go-to material. But it should be good on Friday's edition of the program.
So that
all right.
music,
Yes.
can I ask, that music, Lubie, leading into us, is that a little Tithonius Monk?
Oh, it's all Albert Castilla. Our guy Albert Castilla.
Albert Castilla customized some music for us here, and a great guy. And then it was terrific. You know how musicians are, Tony. He said, yeah, you can go pick up that customized music, Lubie. Go down to the studio there; they have it ready for you. And then Lubie got hit with the tab for the studio time that Albert had used to make the record. No, he very generously donated that and dedicated that on his own. All right, I have one for you, Tony. I was fishing through some videos. Just I was trying to think of, like, what are the most bizarre programs I've ever been involved with, and and there's quite a list. All right, so and this was through no design of my own or fault of my own, but I happen to be the play-by-play voice on a video that's on YouTube, and it's labeled "The Worst Boxer Ever." All right. And my friend Charles J and I were doing this fight, and it was a fight card, and they were holding him at the Sun Dome over in Tampa. It was on a national network at the time known as Prime Television Network, Prime Network, and it was a conglomerate and collection of regional cable systems that. So you had like a national distribution.
Right.
These fights were usually pretty good. I mean, we saw some. Developing. It was one of those programs where you had like the emerging future champions, and you got to see them, sort of on a bi-monthly basis on these monthly telecasts. And, so there was a decent quality. Winky Wright was one of the fighters that came out of that program. He was a longtime champion and very well respected. And, it was fun seeing these guys as they were coming up. So anyway, they got a young prospect that was, the fighter for the promoter there, a guy named Phil Alessi. And, he's in there with this stiff, and literally it looked like Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I mean, I've never seen a guy. He's dancing around doing all of this stuff, and he's moving his head in a very awkward and peculiar fashion, as if he was having like a seizure. This guy, and the other guy, the house fighter, hits him with one punch and sends him flying like 4 seconds into the fight, and that's it. You have to see this, but I was wondering if you had any of these type of things, because I popped it up on Facebook to share it with people, whoever was curious to see what this was all about. And I don't know, have you ever been involved in like just raw comedy? And this was in the context of what was actually a professional fight card.
Well,
but
I don't know
happened to be one of the bouts.
I don't know if it was actually raw comedy as much as it was just bizarre, the whole aspect of it. And I don't even know if it's on YouTube or not. But I remember I was called on a Tuesday morning by the Sunshine Network when the Sunshine Network was just getting started, right? And they were looking for all kinds of programming. And they called me up and they said, "Are you interested in doing a gig this weekend?" And I go, "Well, yeah, what?" Because have you ever done polo before?
Polo, you were called.
Oh yeah, we
nice.
talked.
And I go,
what's the terminology on that? Are you familiar with the terminology?
Yeah, chucker. What's it?
Chucker. A chucker to me is a guy who shoots from 35 feet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't gun the ball, would you please? Chucker you.
Wickets.
Anyway.
Is that a thing? A wicket?
No, that's croquet.
That's croquet. Yeah. Well, isn't it like croquet on horses? I mean, you can't bet on the horses, can you?
Kind of. But anyway, so I go, I said, yeah, I guess. I go, I have no clue. Like, I've never done a polo match before. They said, well, where do you live? We're going to send you videotape study. We want to hire you.
Oh, really? Wow, you actually did some studying?
But they said, and don't worry. If you can't do it, I mean, we want you to do it. All you have to do is just kind of call things as you see them. We're going to give you a color analyst. He's not even a current. He's a former prince. His name was Ani Shinitsky.
Arnie Shinitsky? I knew that guy. He was a bookie from Brooklyn. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he was with the Bowery Boys. He was with Leo Gorcey and Hunts Hall.
Arnie Shinitsky?
No, Ani Shinitsky.
All right.
So we go to West Palm Beach Polo or whatever. And we show up, and first of all, I couldn't believe the crowd.
There's kind of a hush atmosphere.
Yeah, there is.
Very elite. Yes.
Imagine going to the Kentucky Derby with no excitement. None. Just, people showing up and their pinkies are up and they're
It's like a murmur,
championing.
a murmur that
Yeah.
is going on there. There's a little
And
bit of a buzz, I would say.
these most incredible looking animals. I mean, these horses were unbelievable. And then
Some of the players are pretty studly also, They're like soccer
they're
stars.
all every single guy that's on a horse is, out of, GQ.
Everybody looks like Zorro. Yeah, man. It's like Don Diego De La Vega.
And then you come to find out that the official of the match is the guy who's not selected to play on his team. So it's basically.
So how is he going to call him?
Like what we used to do when we played, wiffle ball in the backyard. The guy who wasn't playing, he was the umpire, right? So this is kind of what it is. So in the meantime, we got all these people all dressed up, and then there'd be a break, and all the divots that were, the chucker part of it. All these people dressed like, like they're coming out of the magazine. They all get up and they walk out on the field and they start replacing all the sod, and then the calls were, you could.
How long does this game go on that you were having a call?
I just left. That was 20 years ago. It's still going on. It's sort of like
I've been to those polo matches.
It's a fascinating game, but that was my one and only time doing polo, and thank goodness that I had this color analyst because he knew what the heck was going on. But
yeah, I was driving a Lexus at the time. I was going to say I was driving a Lexus at the time, and they almost didn't let me into the parking lot, because it was like, how could you bring this piece of trash in here, and it would be offensive to the people that were like parking their Rolls Royces right by the ropes where the field, began.
Exactly.
Weird game. So how did you do on the broadcast? I mean, how did it go? You and the Prince got. Obviously, you can work well with anybody. So
I guess I did okay. I guess I did okay. Yeah.
How was the Prince? I mean, was he new at this?
The Prince, no. Well, he was new at being on TV, but he was really knowledgeable. He knew.
How did he do in the stand-up to open the show? I mean, did you have to do that live, or was that on tape?
Yeah, we had to do that live. It was a sit-down. We did it from the press box. We couldn't stand up because
I didn't realize there was a press box there. That's kind of interesting. I guess there would have to be. I've been there, and I was doing some emceeing at a charity event at the polo matches that was set up by who else would be involved in this sort of thing, but the illustrious Chris Visser, who had a thing going, and John Legend, believe it or not, was this was before he was huge, John Legend, but it wasn't like he was an unknown. And I don't know how much money they must have laid on this guy to come there and sing like 3 songs at this charity event, which was being held subsequent to the polo matches, and they had like a little dinner thing and they were raising money. I guess it was a very noble thing. But imagine, what's the price tag on John Legend to sing Feelings? As if he was like some cat showing up at your bar mitzvah.
Today it would be over $1 million. Back then, who knows? I mean, easy.
I was thinking,
including a Learjet in, a private jet in.
Yeah, I don't know that he was. I mean, he was big, but he wasn't like that big at that time, right?
Yeah.
So but I found it odd that this was what he was doing. That you could actually hire this guy, and he only sang like 3 songs. And that was it. He was out the door, man. I mean,
I thought of you the other day, and I had you in my head going, I don't want to get too excited yet. But I just want to shout out to what the University of Miami is doing with Dan Radakovich and Mario Cristobal and the hires they're making, the excitement, the buzz around campus. It's
66-1 to win the national championship.
Yeah, it's palpable.
66-1.
Listen, it's a crapshoot, right? And all we want, I think, I don't think a Canes fan. I think a Canes fan wants to see us definitely get back to the big game. But I think right now they just want to have some consistency. They want to have something to get excited about. They want to get something that they know they can build on. They want to go to a game, not expecting to see stupid mistakes, not expecting to see, interceptions and fumbles, but to see a competitive spirit. And I think that's what Mario is going to bring to the game. Not only that, but I think he's going to bring a toughness back to that campus and to that program that we haven't seen in a long time. And
See,
I,
I'm all in on our guy Jim Larinaga right now, man. He's got
I
Boston
love
College
Jim
tonight.
Larinaga,
Yeah.
and you know what? I love Gino DiMari too. I think baseball is going to be fun. Are we keeping you up, Lubie?
Now, Libby's
Are we
in a
keeping
panic
you up?
because we have to get in a word for Catholic Health
Okay,
Services
Catholic
here.
Health Services.
And I love your enthusiasm for this, Tony Segreto. You are a diehard when it comes to the University of Miami.
He's on
Of
the
course,
board.
Well,
you're in the Hall of
I'm an
Fame. You're
alum.
on the
I'm an
board of
alum.
directors. You're
I'm
a
an alum at
trustee.
there.
You're everything, man. It's great.
I get excited because I think it's what
I worry about premature evaluations.
If I took this hat off and put my alumni hat on, and I'm one of those people who want to live in the day of yesteryear, but you don't want to because we're living in 2022 now. I want to get excited. Listen, we talk about baseball. This was the best time for me. I love getting excited about spring training. I love talking about what we call the suitors of spring. It's part of what makes sports great. You can get excited and passionate about it. And I think that we feel that way about, the people who love Miami and go to the, follow the Hurricanes football program. They want to get excited again. And they haven't been able to get that excited.
I'm smiling because I know Lubie's thinking you were almost bordering on that goofy poem I used to write every year when we did the spring training show and start talking about the crack of the bat and the smell of the Cracker Jack and all of this stuff, And it was like, and Lubie used to roll his eyes because I would do that thing, the Deforrest files for many years on the radio, and that was always one of them. And even I was like looking at it going, come on, Def. I mean, let's get real here. All right. Things get real when you have medical problems, and especially you need to rehab yourself or a relative or a friend. And maybe they suffered something as devastating as a stroke. I mean, even a mild one can have all kinds of after effect and impact. And I'm no doctor, but I know this. You can't go to a finer place, Tony Segreto, than Catholic Health Services to take care of any of that type of medical need.
What happens to a person when they need rehab? What's the first thing they think about? I want to not just get better, but I want to maintain my independence. As you get older and things happen to you, keeping your independence is paramount. You want to be able to do things on your own. And I think that what Catholic Health Services provides is the ability to have you believe and your family believe and your loved ones believe that you will get back to that independence, and that their intention is to get you not just better, but get you better quicker than you thought you would get better, and to get you better to a point where the occupational therapy gives you that leg up, no pun intended, so that you can live an independent life where you don't feel like you're depending on people. There's someone, where we live, God bless her. She's still somewhat healthy, but she can't drive anymore. She can't do a lot of things. So she depends on all these people. And there are days where she gets so depressed and so down because she can't do these things. That's where Catholic Health Services comes in. And this is where they excel. Their people are so passionate and they're so compassionate about what you're going through and about what the family is going through that they do everything in their power with the love that they have for what they do to get you back up and moving and getting that independence. And they do it with an expertise and a panache that makes you feel, oh, I look forward to seeing you. Even though I'm going to go through some pain today to get better, I still am so happy to see you. And they are happy to see you as well. And I think that that's what makes Catholic Health Services so special. You went through it with your mom. Regrettably, it wasn't a situation where she was going to get better, but you needed a situation where she was going to be comfortable in those last days of her life. You knew what was going on, and you were as much at peace as you possibly could be going through such a traumatic time. And they were able to provide that for you. And that's another aspect of what they do and what makes them so special.
Yeah, I mean, you see, I remember my mom was rehabbing something, as ordered by some doctor, and I was in like a nursing home briefly, and you see like the indifference, and they just, it's like, what? Oh, I think she's in room 32.
Yeah,
and you're wondering what kind of care these people are actually getting there, and she was always very annoyed, and Catholic Health Services, it really is true, Tony. I mean, you could not be any more on point than to talk about the biggest differential in these kind of situations. And obviously the person going through whatever it is experiencing, something. And dealing with something that might be difficult. But the communication is really the bottom line. When you have concern about a patient or somebody's rehab, or you just want to know about where you stand yourself with regard to your own ability to come back and do the things that you did before without a problem. All right, we're coming back with more with Tony Segreto, Catholic Health Services, marvelous organization, people.
Yeah,
You know what? Tony's as honest as they come. And I can't tell you how great these guys performed, as Tony mentioned in the case with my mom. All right, coming back with more. Mike Lubie Lubitz. You woke him up, Tony, which is good, man. He's ready to pass out there.
Yeah, he was trying.
He's so loyal to
I'm not
Catholic
going to
Health
yawn.
Services. Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to yawn. He's like, I'm not going to yawn. I'm not going to yawn. I know I'm on camera. I'm not going to yawn.
We'll come back.
He's
with
worried
more,
about that darn cat.
Old School with Tony Segreto continues in a moment here on the Defo Show. Now that. You have to check this out. Worst boxer ever on YouTube, Tony. 854. Oh, it's on my Facebook page.
Okay.
It's Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
Why is it necessary? I mean, it's cliche at this point to put the guy out there on the edge of the pier and be reporting.
I couldn't agree with you more.
You're so not wrong. I remember so many times Bo Camper himself, because he's a big dude, holding onto a tree and like, yep,
Yes.
I'm here, I'm out here.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus,
Right.
Kim.
We would.
Did you ever get assigned to that? I mean, you never had to stoop to that, did you?
He said
Well,
no.
the only first of all, let me tell you something. When Weaver was punching away, part of those punches were mine because
he was sending cash out to the dog track in between new shifts and then reporting on the affairs of the world. Nice, Tony.
he was he would come into my office and he goes, "Hey, Kai is running tonight. Kai was a great dog." And I go, "Really?" I said, "What are the odds?" He said, "Well, we got to put some dough on it." So I gave him some money for Kai. Then I saw some, I look at the odds, and my parents were going, and he'd hook up with my parents, and they'd be betting on the dogs. It was absolutely great.
Defo and Lubie always have a blast kicking it old school with the iconic Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
That wasn't like the birds at the Masters either. When you were talking about the dog track there, that was an actual dog barking in the background for effect. Welcome back to the show. Right? I mean, wasn't that a shocker? I mean, you talk about television production when you found out those birds didn't really exist.
Oh, I know.
At Augusta National, that and the guy that came up with it from some Audubon Society.
They sounded so real. I mean, it was so well done,
and they still do it. That's the great thing. We all know it's not.
And you still buy in, and you still buy in. It's like when you're walking through Disney World and you hear all the squawking going on, and you don't realize it's coming out of a speaker, but you still buy into it. Buy into the fantasy of it.
I'm laughing a little bit because I was thinking about that clip again, and the ring announcer there was a friend of mine at the time named Mark Biro, who went on to some decent, not quite Jimmy Lennon Jr. type claim as a ring announcer, but he was very good. But the thing I remember him most for, Tony, is he did a dead-on impression of the walk of the one-armed man and the fugitive. I mean, you talk about a distinction. But it was hysterical to see him do it. I mean, he looked just like the guy walking off into the distance there as Kimball is going, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Right, yeah.
It was him." All right, where are you turning your sporting attention this coming weekend, Tony Segreto? You're always involved in something. What's going on with Tony Segreto this weekend?
I think I'm just going to be a casual viewer, and when I get to, I know that my daughters flew down to be with her Florida State softball team, and they're
Is
playing
that tournament still going on? By the way, it seems like it's been going on for like a month.
It's over. No.
Oh, okay.
But they're ranked third in the country, and I'll be watching a little bit of that. They're playing Pitt this weekend, and I have some friends at Pitt, so I think that'll. We keep keeping you up, Lubie. Shh, go lay down. Go lay down. We can handle the last.
Yeah, against the women's softball,
Got a minute.
Yeah, and I'm gonna watch. I'll be watching a little golf and basketball, of course. I'm gonna be.
Oh, you got the
around.
Arnie Palmer thing, man. I always liked that tournament.
I love the Palmer tournament. Yeah, and I thought the end of the Honda was quite classic. With the thunderstorm and those guys playing through that, and and I thought that again. I thought they did a great job, and it's funny.
NBC. You're always touting NBC. I love that about you. Your loyalty to the organization.
I think Azinger is really coming along. I think
he's great.
Coming along really well. Yeah. I thought, I think when he started, it was a little shaky because I really liked Johnny Miller. He was so bloody honest, He was
a little tough on people. There's no question.
Yeah, well, but I think that, it's like funny.
It was a departure from the usual suck-up job that you get from golf commentators.
Exactly. Just like
about how wonderful Tiger Woods is. He's the greatest human being on the planet.
Yeah,
and meanwhile, he's like having his caddy, knock some lady over the head with a 9-iron because she took a picture of Tiger Woods or said, "Ooh, Tiger."
Yeah.
Steve Williams was a guy. Remember that guy, the caddy for Tiger Woods?
Oh,
yeah.
But McEnroe's the same way with tennis.
Woods turned on the guy after he was a loyalist. I mean, he never said a word about any of these indiscretions with women or any of this stuff. He had to know what was going on with El Tigre. Yeah. And, Woods turned his back on the guy later on. So, I mean, not necessarily the greatest human being, in spite of the fact that he's a brilliant golfer and a very accomplished guy. But, no, I'm with you. Johnny Miller was tough. I was saying this the other day when we were talking about the Honda Classic with John Kajemi that Paul Azinger, I remember he came as a guest. There was some Don Shula function that I was doing a radio show from, and among the guests there was Azinger and another golfer who I don't remember, but they brought him up to talk, and I thought, wow, this guy's a blast. As compared to the usual stiff that you get when you're doing a golf interview.
Yeah,
Azinger was really colorful and a great illumination of what was going on the tour. And I thought he'd be a great commentator, and it turned out, I think, he is.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. He really is. It was fun to watch. So there's a lot going on. I mean, nothing in particular, but you gotta, you start looking at what the seeds are going to be as we get into the period of March where the tournament's going to start. And I'm excited about that. I really am. When do you leave for Atlantic City?
That'll be on the 17th, the day the tournament starts. So, they have an early flight there. It's not as long. And, of course, now you're dealing with East Coast times instead of West. So I'll be in the Borgata Sportsbook there for the 12 o'clock post time for the first games.
Were the flights to Vegas too expensive, or they just
it was a couple of things. Not only were they exorbitantly expensive by the normal standard, but I probably would have paid it if I had gotten the flights that I wanted. But the way it was, what was available, what was so limited, it would have crushed the whole vacation into just schlepping from airport to airport and being very tired on both ends of the trip. And it would have wiped out one of our days also. So, and then a red eye back. I'm not a big fan of that anymore, Tony.
When you book a red eye, you think to yourself, well, this will work. And then
you never go to sleep. Yeah.
You never go to sleep, and the next couple of days you're out of it. When you're younger, it's bad. It's okay. You kind of bounce back. But when you're older, it's just harder.
It's a pain in the neck because I have no luck on red eyes. I mean, I luck out a lot with nobody in the middle seat, and on the flights I've been on in the last couple of years. But it would always be I'd have a middle seat and two sumo wrestlers would come and sit down, man.
Is there anything worse than sitting on the plane and you're seeing like these large people walking down, and you put your head down, hoping Just hoping they pass your aisle up.
You put a piece of black tape over 22A, which you can now get arrested for when you land. I mean, because anything that causes any kind of stress on an plane flight is out of bounds. All right, Tony, we love you, man. Great stuff as always. We were all over the place. It was fantastic fun.
Yeah, we were. That was fun today. It was a lot of fun.
Good time, very spirited session. And, thanks, of course, to Catholic Health Services, Texas Roadhouse, Ed Garcia, just really wonderful organizations, and we appreciate their support. Tony, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Absolutely. Love you guys. And thanks, Texas Roadhouse and Catholic Health Services. Couldn't do it without you.
All right, great stuff. Tony Segreto. A lot of fun today. Scoop Skolnick, I thought was brilliant. All of this stuff is archived here. Ion Channel, they do a great job of that. You can just Google The Defo Show. Remember, Jack used to have that sign when we were doing a green screen thing, and it would say, just Google The Defo Show. Because I can never explain this stuff, right? I mean, in any kind of – because I don't understand it, any of this complex new technology. Very inept at this. Although we are able to get on the air every day, which is kind of amazing. Lubie. Shows you how simple it is. Used to have zillions of dollars, though, in your own television studio, right? And now it's great. And Scoop joining us, with Scoop on Skype, I thought was sensational today. That was good. Very professionally done, Scoop Skolnick segment. We appreciate him coming on the show. Lubie, you have a great day. We'll join you guys later on. Also, you can catch us on the Believe Podcast Network.
Yep.
And, also the show restreams on 5 Reasons Sports Network, and that seems to be going very well. And our guest today on Believe, we couldn't arrange to have him on the show this morning because he had some doctor's appointment or something. But always fascinating when it comes to talking anything about the National Football League. Long and very, very distinguished career in the NFL as a special teams coach with the Dolphins and the Jets, and later on with the world champion New Orleans Saints. He was a part of that. Mike Westhoff. Always great talking to Westhoff about his stories. And so he'll join us on the Believe podcast. That's later on today. If you want to catch it there, that's BLEAV.
Yep.
Right? Tug McGraw time, right? You got to believe. All right, Lubie, we'll do it again tomorrow. Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Be part of the fanfare there. And thanks to Hialeah Park, as always, for being supporters of the program. They are believers, and we certainly appreciate that. And we will see you tomorrow at 7 in the a.m. as we leave. You know that.
The time.
It's 9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.